Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. We'll probably have some more people walking in, but we might as well get started. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming. We're going to start tonight's event off with a prayer. Joan, would you like to come up and get started, please?
And
Joan Bell is giving our opening prayer.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's bow our hearts together in prayer. Father God, we hallow your name, Lord. We exalt you, Lord, and we glorify you. We thank you, Father God, for so great a salvation through the shed blood of your Son, Jesus, our risen Savior. Because of his sacrifice for us, Lord, we can come boldly and with confidence before your throne in this great time of need and receive mercy and grace to help us. We thank you, Lord, for that precious gift. And so we humble our hearts before you, Lord. For you tell us in your word, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, will pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I, your God, will hear from heaven. I will forgive their sins and heal their land. Lord, we ask you to forgive us of our own personal sin and our national sin, Lord, that has led to such calamity in our land. We repent, Lord, and we ask humbly that you forgive us and you help us cleanse our own hearts. We pray for your wisdom and guidance. We thank you, Father God, for this great nation and the freedom and the boundless blessings we have received from you. We thank you for our Constitution, which was modeled after and inspired by your precepts and your commandments. We come to you, Lord, because we are deeply troubled for what is happening in our nation and in our own state. For among many of our leaders, Lord, lawlessness abounds and our Constitution is largely ignored. We offer prayer for all of our leaders nationwide in every level of government, Lord. Please bless each of them with knowledge of your Son, Lord, and with your wisdom. Help them to recognize that they are accountable to you, God, for their own sin, for their decisions, and for their actions. We pray they will repent, Lord. We pray they will respect authority and practice accountability. We pray, Lord, that they will heed their own conscience and endeavor to restore morality in their own lives and in our nation. Give them hearts that desire honesty, integrity, and above all, a firm commitment to faithfully uphold the constitutional laws of this land as we, the people, have elected them to do. That your wisdom and your righteousness be evident in our nation's policies and leaders. May justice and mercy, Lord, prevail. We pray your wisdom tonight, Lord, for Ed Humphreys and his team, and over Doug and Cindy Toomer and the Stand Up for Idaho team, for all those working to bring this event together, Lord, and for everyone attending and listening. And we pray for their children and their grandchildren, Lord, as it is these future generations that we are so very, very deeply concerned for. Bless and guide all of our words and actions tonight, Lord, as we pray in the precious and powerful name of Jesus, our Savior and Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ed.
Okay, would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, would everybody please remain standing? We're going to have Alexander Garcia is going to sing the National Anthem for us, please. And I'm not going to let her talk.
Yeah, you don't want that guy.
I like to embarrass people. I really appreciate Alexander for doing this. She's a beautiful singer. 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 She
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight on the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rang loud, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. Yeah, excuse me a second, I want to set this down. Okay, just a couple of quick things before we get started tonight with Ed, and I appreciate Ed for coming. Cindy and I went to Boise this weekend for initially to learn a little bit about what goes on in the legislature, and then we were fortunate enough, I guess you could call it, to be there that the special session was started Monday. And so we decided to stick around and see what goes on. I hate to say it, folks, but it was disgusting. It was, and that is the absolute truth. There was such blatant, in-your-face, out in the open corruption on the House floor, and I'm just, you know me, I'll just tell you the way I see it, and I'll tell you the truth. It was just despicable. The result of the session was nothing was done except one thing. That was to persecute Priscilla Giddings. That was the agenda on the agenda. That was what was on the agenda. They gave lip service to trying to do vaccine mandate work and all of this. That was all lip service. There were people in the House that tried to do something. Nobody in the Senate did anything. There were people who say, well, we tried and all that. That is wrong. And this is my opinion, with the exception of a very few people. Everybody in our legislature, in the House and the Senate, needs replaced now. It is just despicable. I'm naive, I'll admit that. I'm naive. I always thought, there was a little bit there, but I was just astounded, literally, at the games that were played and the way it happened. Very important bills that would have resolved the issues that we have right now with the vaccine mandates and all the stuff that's going on in the federal overreach were what they call stuck in a drawer, assigned to a committee where the committee chairperson chose not to be that day. And they went out of their way to make sure that those bills were not heard. They never covered it up. I mean, it wasn't anything, under the table. I mean, it was out there in your face corruption. I truly urge you. We have elections coming up. It is I can't stress how important it is that we step up and that we replace those people. Because if you don't, this state and our country is done for.
That's right.
What I saw this week, and it's just Idaho, that I thought was a solid red state and all that, a solid constitutional good state, I was wrong. And it just, anyway, I'll get off my high horse on that one, but pay attention. Things are going to heat up after Christmas, in between now and Christmas, okay? We're going to have some governor candidates here and all that. We need to pay attention to them. We're going to start seeing some other candidates coming in. We need to pay attention. They are the ones that are going to control your future, your kids' future, your grandkids' future. And right now, there's a part of me that says, you know, I'm sort of glad I don't have grandkids right now. I want them dearly, but I'm sort of glad I don't. Because it'd be hard to bring them up in this country, where it's headed. So with that, I'm just going to say one more time, pay attention, get the right people in. We have to make a difference. We cannot fail on this. Failure's not an option. With that, okay, some different news. Next week, you know, we meet Wednesday all the time. Next week, we're not going to have a speaker. Next week, we're going to have sort of a potluck. Santa Prado's going to bring the turkey and the hams for ham sandwiches and things like that. And the Snake River Event Center's good enough to let us use this place. But we want to have a potluck just to thank everybody for their support over the last several months and all that. I know some of you don't come very often, but they have quite a few regulars. Could I get a show of hands of who's interested in coming next week and just maybe bringing something and doing that? That would be great. I'm hoping to have as many people, and you know what, doesn't cost anybody anything, just whatever you want to bring. This will be a social time, get to know us all a little bit better and sort of plan our strategy for the coming weeks and months, okay? So I saw a pretty good show of hands, about half of us, that'll be wonderful. Cindy's out there, and maybe I'll get her to start a little list about what you might bring if you'd like to come for the potluck, okay? I'd appreciate that. The next thing that we have is we have our Liberty Dinner. That's going to be the 2nd of December, and it's in a couple of weeks. We're going to have Dorothy Moon. She's a current representative in the Chalice area, but she's running for Secretary of State. She's going to be our speaker. We'd like to, if you'd like to come to that Liberty Dinner, we have seating for about 100. Please sign up on that. We have a sign up outside there. We just need to get an account for that. I'm not going to go through the rest of the agenda because we have a lot of things coming up over the next several weeks and stuff, and I want to actually give Ed as much time as he needs to be able to talk, and for us to get to know him. And I'll say this, and Ed's already been here once and he understands it, you know, and I say this to all of our folks, you know, you need to ask the hard questions. Again, and I really emphasize that. Ask the hard questions. Don't beat around the bush. Don't be politically correct. You know, be like you're talking to your neighbor or something. You know, so they ask those questions. What I saw this last couple of days makes it even more important that you show no mercy, and I'm serious. From here out, no mercy. We have to know who we are electing to be our representatives. Okay, they're not our leaders. I don't care what anybody says, they are not our leaders. They are our representatives, and we vote them there. And so with that, I'm going to ask Ed to come up, but don't be easy on him, and I'll tell you, I'm not going to be easy on him, but I don't want to be the only one giving him a hard time. So with that, everybody give Ed Humphreys a big hand.
Man, I feel like I'm about to get grilled now.
Yes.
No, Doug and Cindy do an incredible job. I really want to thank them for putting this together, because I have to tell you, only good things come from all of us getting together and talking about the issues that our state and our community is facing. So please give Doug and Cindy a big round of applause for all their efforts setting this out. What I really love about their story and this organization is it was really just a couple of people who saw a problem and wanted to fix it. And they did. They didn't wait for somebody else to come up with a great idea. They didn't wait for anyone else to do anything. They just stepped in. And that's really what these times call for. It's heartbreaking to hear Doug express that he's kind of grateful he doesn't have grandkids right now. I'm sure some of you feel the same way. It is heartbreaking, and I'm probably as sensitive to it as anybody because, well, we're a young family. I have young kids. Man, I pace a lot. This thing creaks. I might have trouble here. I've been told I have to stay up on stage. But I do actually have hope here in Idaho. There actually is a lot to be hopeful for, despite the fact that our state government is rather inept in a lot of ways. And what Doug expressed about this week of the session, and I just got the news just a couple hours ago. He summarized it really well. At the end of the day, we had the House and the Senate come together to solve this crisis that we're facing, and no solution was implemented. And rather than staying until the job is done, like all of us are required in our lives, we have to stay until the job is done. They crafted a political excuse and walked away. I'm not asking to see hands, but I mean, how many of us have friends and family that are suffering under the heavy hand of these mandates? How many people, there are people in this room, I know, who are going to lose their career over this. People who are contributing members of our community. People who are raising families. Folks, this ain't right, and you know it. And the reality is, we don't have a group like this come together here in Idaho Falls because things are run right. But I'm grateful because we're all waking up. I hope you're not going woke. Stop at the point of waking up. Don't go woke on me. But we're all becoming aware of what's going on. And this is the biggest reason that I actually have a lot of hope for the state of Idaho. Folks, there's only 1.8 million people in the state of Idaho. And if there's one state in the country where a small group of patriots, committed patriots, who are ready to honor their sacred civic duty, it's here in Idaho that we can make an enormous impact. It's here. Just to give you an idea, in the last Republican gubernatorial primary, which is essentially in this state the election, 76,000 Idahoans chose our current governor. That's it. 76,000 people cast a vote for Brad Little, and we are all of us stuck with the consequences. So there's a part of me that I just can't stand that when I think about it, but there's also in every adversity an opportunity. The opportunity is the fact that we can rally 100,000 patriots here in the state of Idaho and change the entire character of our state government to be a state government that honors our individual rights, that honors the Constitution, that honors family values and American values. And heck, is it too much to ask for a state government that does not fund leftist activists? That would be nice. That's my ask personally. We can do that. We can find 100,000 people who feel just the way that we do. And you know what would happen if we did? We would have a state government that would lead the country, That's the absolute truth. Think of it right now. Think of what you see in Florida. You have Governor Ron DeSantis, who is governing a swing state. How many presidential elections has Florida determined? Florida is not an overwhelmingly conservative state. They have to fight for every gain they make. And yet he's bold in his vision. He's unapologetic in his beliefs. And the party is, here's the interesting thing, the party is growing in Florida. Ron DeSantis, and that model is the future for the Republican Party. He has a mandate. He's going to continue, I hope, to deliver on that mandate. But this is what is most sad of all. What Doug just described, what happened in our legislature here in Idaho, you have to understand. Our legislature, both chambers, are a super majority Republican body. Idaho is what you call a Republican trifecta. It means Republicans run everything in this state. And in fact, we have so much representation in the state government that if the Republicans came together tomorrow, we could amend the state constitution if we so chose. But the reality is we can't even pass laws to protect basic rights. And how sad is that? That in Idaho we would have to pass a law to protect basic rights. That should scare you. That tells me that Idaho is not a red state as we thought. We're already purple. The people are conservative. We have salt of the earth people in this state. But the representation that we have is not the same as us. That's what's going to be on the ballot here soon. And I wanted, there's many of you I don't recognize, many of you I've not met before. So I want the opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself and what my vision is and what I think the way forward is for our state. Little bit about me, my wife, and my wife, believe it or not, joined us tonight, so it's great to see her here. Holly in the back, yeah. And we have, thank you, yeah. We're a young family, as you can see. We have 2 young children at home. We have a 3.5-year-old son and a newborn baby girl. I guess she's 4 months now. I guess I can't call her newborn anymore. But I will tell you this, and I said it last time I was here, the recipe for a surplus of sleepless nights in your life, run for governor when you have a newborn baby. And I think what could potentially happen, kind of what I'm banking on, is that I'll have gray hair by Christmas. I think that's a deliverable at this point. So you'll have to forgive me if I'm sleep deprived, but right now that's what it's gonna take. And I stepped into this realm not because there aren't great people here in the state of Idaho who could do great things, and I thought I was better than all of them. The reason that I stepped into running for the top of the ticket, the reason I decided to run for governor is because in the short time I've been involved, with only a few years now, I've come to see very quickly what Doug expressed and shared with us tonight. And the former Congressman Jason Chaffetz, I think, actually said it best. He told a story when he got elected to Congress, how honored he was to walk in those hallowed halls where so much of our history was made. And he kept asking himself, how am I so blessed? How am I so lucky to be here? And he said after about 6 months in Congress, he started looking around the room and the question changed, and he started asking, how the heck did these people get here? That's been my experience exactly. I professionally before I get to that, just so you know, I used to actually live in Idaho Falls. So I first moved to Idaho Falls in 2013. That's where Holly and I first met. She grew up out here in eastern Idaho, Rexburg specifically. And we met in Idaho Falls, and I was a roughneck on drilling rigs, drilling for oil. That was something that allowed me to really live the American dream in my own life. It's something I'm really proud of, because you have to understand, when you look at me, you have to realize I've lived on both sides of the tracks in my life. 13 years ago, I was living in a run-down trailer park in western Colorado. But the opportunity to work on a drilling rig changed my life. It was that opportunity that I needed to turn things around. And I discovered Idaho Falls because I was working on rigs in Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, North Dakota, and Idaho Falls was kind of a midway point. And that's how I got introduced to Idaho. This is where Idaho Falls, and this area is where I fell in love with this state. And both our kids are born here, and we're an Idaho family now. And we're not going anywhere. There's nowhere else to go. Folks, Idaho is the last foxhole for the American dream now. This is it. There's nowhere else to go. You can move to Florida, but you know, things aren't going to be always great there either. At some point, we got to fix it right where we're at. But for the last 5 years, Holly and I we live in Eagle now. And she's a nurse anesthetist at St. Luke's, and we can talk about the mandate and how that's affected her and our family. And since I moved there, I was a financial planner, and so I managed people's life savings. And in that time, I was able to get an education. I now have a master's in finance, and sometimes I joke, I'm one of the few people you'll meet that both never finished the 8th grade and then went on to get a master's degree. A lot of marketing companies do not understand what category to put me in and what materials to send me. So I get a lot of stuff from AARP. That's apparently a thing, and prostate examination. They just don't even know what to send me, right? Because I fit in so many different categories. But that's the kind of unique perspective that I think somebody needs to bring into government today. And when I was working with some of my clients, I would host coffee clubs and I would give an economic update. And of course the economy was doing incredibly well, right? Because we had President Trump at the helm. And so as each coffee club went on, I had clients that told me, they said, well, Ed, you obviously have a leaning, right? Right, I was supposed to be unbiased, but folks, when you're at record levels for unemployment, right? When the economy's firing on all 8 cylinders, when we're all doing better, when we all pay less in taxes and our government works better for us, it's hard to not be proud of that. And so I had a couple of clients that knew a little bit about my story, and they asked me to get involved in the Republican Party. And what they had known about me is the same thing that I'll share with you. I and my family lived under and fled from communism in Eastern Europe. So my mother, my brother, my aunt, they come from the former Yugoslavia. And then on my father's side, my grandmother, she comes from Nazi Germany. We had much of our family came to this country to escape these ideologies that have destroyed countless families and communities and countries. And they came here for that idea, the American dream, the notion that we could reach for the absolute heights of our own personal potential. That's why they came to this country. But they told me what it was like to live in a communist country. And I grew up as a little boy hearing stories of the stuff nightmares are made of. I have members of my family that were murdered by the police, and there's no investigation. Members of my family, people I love, that lost teeth from malnourishment. And I became very sensitive to that kind of ideology. And let me go ahead and just brand it now, because there's so many different ways to describe it. But for my friends who aren't as informed on some of those issues, all the collectivist ideologies, they all really fit in the same bucket. When I say collectivist, yeah, you could call them Marxist, socialist, communist. It's really all the same thing. You have to understand, I mean, both Bernie Sanders and Vladimir Lenin, the father of the Soviet Union, called themselves democratic socialists, okay? That's a marketing term. But these collectivist ideologies, they seek to actually control every aspect of your life, and you become like a battery, like a part of a machine. And all things are decided for you by, subject matter experts who believe they're more qualified to make decisions in your life than you are. And that will extend to all spheres of our lives, right? Have you guys here heard of a Dr. Fauci? Okay, you guys are familiar then. That's exactly what that is. That's what that looks like. But imagine that extending into every single area of your life. Right now, it's in your personal medical decisions. Tomorrow, it'll be in the educational decisions for your children and grandchildren. The day after that, it'll be how many kids you're allowed to even have, right? Heard of the Chinese Communist Party and the one-child policy? It'll never end. It'll extend to every sphere of your life. They'll tell you how many square feet you can have in your home. This is how most of the world has lived. You got to realize billions of the world population has lived this way. And so I'm very sensitive to those things. And when I was invited to go to the Republican Party and start to participate, I was horrified because I came to realize that the party, the frontline cause against socialism, the cause of conservatism for American values, had the weakest leadership I could even imagine.
Most insane.
It's completely pathetic in a lot of ways. And I saw that, and it literally scared me. I couldn't just stay on the sidelines. So I got involved in the party. And what you have to know is I won a series of party elections, which landed me as the Region 4 chairman. So I sit on the state Republican Party executive board. And I am saddened to tell you that through that experience and quickly rising through the ranks of the party, I saw face to face that the Republican Party today has really become the party of socialism light. We are now just the lighter form of socialists. We're not as bad as the full-throated Marxists in the Democrat Party, but I think that there ought to be one party in this country that stands for American values, that stands for capitalism and the free markets and the free exchange of ideas. There ought to be one party. It's unacceptable to me. And so I started getting to know our elected officials. And I have a lot of different ideas. I'm a finance guy, right? I always say, and I've found out in really powerful ways, in politics, if you want the truth, then follow the money. And that's what I started doing. You're looking at a man who's read thousands of pages of fiscal and budgetary reports of our state government, and I've come to see exactly what this machine operates to support. And surprise, surprise, folks, it's not better roads, it's not better schools, it's not the things, the necessary, reasonable things we would ask of our state government. Our tax dollars go to fund a political agenda. We are getting routed and outmaneuvered by anti-American activists because you all, myself included, my family included, continue to go to work, continue to raise our families and mind our own business, and pay our taxes into a system that's been hijacked by political operatives, and they funnel that money to private organizations that promote values very counter to your own. Do you want to know why this gender confusion is developing? Do you think those ideas that there's infinite genders, do you think an idea like that spreads because it's compelling or convincing in any way? It doesn't spread because it's compelling. The idea is insane. It spreads because you pay to promote it. Everyone here helps the abortion industry, not just through the federal level, but through the state government. Everybody here helps abortion continue on day after day and actually promote the services of Planned Parenthood. Everyone here pays into a university system that tells the rising generation that the Declaration of Independence was a white supremacist event. These ideas are spreading because we pay to promote them. But I don't want you, that's heartbreaking. I've seen veterans actually break down when I share that with them. Because some people have given it all for this country, put it all on the line. That's the legacy of America. And now we see us losing ourselves. We are in a knife fight for the soul of America right now. That much is very clear. And personally, I won't be caught on the sidelines. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. But what I appreciate more than anything is seeing that you guys are here, because you're all collectively making the decision that you're not going to be caught on the sidelines. And what I can see in the last since I started this campaign, which really kicked off in May, but what I've seen over the last 7 months or 6 months, excuse me, is the beginning of a movement. And I've seen it. You have to realize, I've been traveling the state over and over and over. And my chief of staff is here with me tonight, Laurel, my videographer, Jeff, you see him running around, he's filming us. We went to events, and when it started out, there was, 5 or 10 people, right? Then we come around again, the state, there's, 15 or 20 people. Then we come around again, and then there's 50 people. And now we're here, and there's over 100 people here tonight. And it has nothing to do with me. I'm not saying it's about me. I just represent a small part of the movement. What it is we are all getting off the sidelines and into the game. That means we're going to win. That is the greatest indicator that we're going to win. And this primary, the Republican primary that's coming up on May 17th, the next year, which you have to be a Republican to vote in, we have a closed primary, so make sure you're registering your conservative friends. I have to imagine that this will continue to grow at an exponential pace, and our ranks will swell if you commit to this cause. It's up to you. People ask me, well, Ed, what are you going to do about this, and what are you going to do about that? And we'll get to a lot of your questions tonight, but I wanted to offer you a little bit of hope, because honestly, we just got our butts kicked this week. Think about it. We have a super majority legislature, Republican legislature, that accomplished nothing this week. We just got the snot kicked out of us. But I want you to know this is a temporary problem. We are going to make a comeback, and maybe, sadly, maybe we had to suffer this adversity for some of our friends to wake up. Maybe we had to go through this so they could see, wow, nobody's going to come and save us. That's the mentality you need to have. That's the spirit of this state. We believe you pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. It's going to be up to us, and I believe it's our time now. It's not the time for the professional politician anymore. It's a time for us, the people. We're going to take it back, and I believe that we can create a coalition to do that. But I'm going to replace the word unity, which you hear often. People talk, well, if us Republicans, if we were just more united and we played a little nicer, things would be better. I think that's actually a misunderstanding. I'm going to offer you another word for unity: cooperation. We don't have to agree on everything. We never will. But here's the thing. If we had a bold vision and a big goal to shoot for, could we, as Republicans, as conservatives, cooperate to accomplish that agenda? I didn't see anyone else in leadership in this state that was putting forward a bold vision. I didn't see it. And look, if I had confidence that there was a leader in the state that was going to put forward a bold vision and put the work into this, I would be helping them fundraise and run a killer campaign like we are to help get that person elected. But what I've quickly learned is the politicians are not going to be the ones to save us. The Senate is not suddenly going to have a change of heart. It's gotta be us, and that's what it's gonna come down to. And I wanted to offer you 3 things that I think would be some of the most powerful goals that we could cooperate to accomplish. Sorry, I need a drink. You'll be all right. Here's the first one. I believe the most powerful thing we could accomplish for the state of Idaho, we would lead America if we did it, Most powerful thing we could do here in Idaho, I believe Idaho needs school choice. We should have a robust network. Thank you. Somebody cares here. Look, we all have to ask ourselves, do we want to continue to have an educational model that is built on one-size-fits-all policy that is plagued by political agendas right now? I've heard, I spent an hour on the phone today with somebody who has had 5 children go through, sometimes District 91, but mostly District 93, who also serves as a substitute teacher, and I know exactly what's going on in your schools out here. And you should be concerned what's going on in your schools out here. We need to offer families, and we need to empower families to choose how their kids get educated. We need to offer more educational options so that parents can say, I want to send my kid to a school that teaches them this country's founding was inspired by God. Holly and I would love to send our kids to a school that taught them that God created the earth and put man and woman on it. And you know what? There's only 2 people in this room whose business that is, and it's ours. It is none of your business what school we want to send our kids to. And you know what? It's none of my business what school you want to send your kids to. It's none of my business to determine how your kids ought to be educated, and it's no other politician's business in this state either. We need to be empowered to take back the reins, and I'll tell you why that's so powerful, because we'll get back to the free exchange of ideas. People will believe differently, and that's okay, right? People can think differently and learn differently and focus on different things. And what will happen is we will see culture and the arts come back. We've seen a severe degradation of the arts. It's horrific. I was on the radio in Twin Falls talking about today, and I interviewed with East Idaho News. You wouldn't believe what's happening to the arts, and you should be worried. Whether or not you love art, you have to understand culture comes from art. And when we purposely allow the arts to be degraded and trampled on the way they have been, you will see culture follow suit, and you have. We celebrate a whole lot of garbage today. In fact, you want to know one of the fun things your tax dollars pay for? You pay money and use an entire agency that funnels grant money to anti-American activists in the form of grants, woke activists who write some, crazy woke poem. Or put together and fabricate pieces of metal and put it on a brick wall. Let me tell you what your tax dollars paid for. The last time my family made a trip to the Boise Art Museum, which I encourage you to do if you want to see the very definition of the degradation of the arts, there were figurines made out of cat hair there. Somebody brushed their cat and put little stick figures together with the cat hair. That was art. Folks, is it safe to say government should get out of the art business? I hope you feel the way I do. Look, I love art, but should we even have a commission for the arts anymore? That's not appropriate use of our tax dollars. It's unacceptable to me. School choice will actually fix those things. I know it surprises people, but the reality is we have a system that has standardized every aspect of students' lives, and they go through the same process, and the whole goal is they come out the other end as a uniform and consistent product. Does that sound like education to you? We're creating generations of conformists in this country.
We are.
And do you wonder why it's any surprise when we come to this whole COVID scenario, and how you guys have had this experience, but think about this. This is how dumb we've made our society. And look, it's not in my heart to be nasty, and I don't want to call names, but at some point, folks, at some point, you get to just call it for what it is. Let me tell you the level of intellectual heights that we've reached in America now. You walk into a restaurant, and they'll tell you, well, put your mask on. And then you put your mask on, you walk 10 feet, and you sit down and you take off your mask and you have stopped the spread. People really believe this. That should concern you deeply about our education system right there. Because it has nothing to do with stopping the spread and everything to do with conformity. You need to conform. And how many people do you know? We all know these folks, and I try to be patient with them. I'm losing my patience a little bit. You all know these folks. They'll spend an afternoon with you and some friends, and then they'll go somewhere and they'll put their mask on. And you're, what do you put your mask on? Well, it's the kind thing to do. Okay? So you just like willy-nilly put it on, take it off? Like what's your standard for that, right? And here we are, we're just doing it because of peer pressure. Do you wonder why insanity is growing in this country? Why we have such a mental illness crisis? It's because we tolerate sanity.
That's right.
We tolerate it. It's not acceptable anymore. And so we're going to have to start calling it for what it is. But when we introduce that free exchange of ideas back into our school system, more educational options for parents, you will see that go away. You will see bold, courageous kids who are comfortable in their own skin, who are comfortable thinking differently than other kids, who are comfortable challenging one another. And that will lead to better ideas and better solutions. It's the same way in this primary, and this is one of the things that I have to push back on, because one of the things that we've forgotten as conservatives, we forgot to put principles above politics. We have to get back to that. We cannot keep just politicking and politicking. At some point we have to stand for our principles, and somewhere along the line, Republicans stop believing in competition. Let me tell you something very clearly tonight. This primary is the most valuable thing that has happened for the cause of conservatism in this state in a long time. Because what we need right now is somebody and a whole collection of people who got a whole lot of grit. We need gritty, scrappy fighters, people who can take a licking and keep on ticking. That's the kind of spirit that we need right now. Folks, if you are the type to celebrate a coronation, you are promoting weak leadership. The reality is I'm grateful that there are 3 conservative candidates in the race right now. You know why? Because we all force each other to be better. We all force each other to up our game. We force each other to work a little bit harder. You get to see how we all react when we get hit, when we are on the ground. How do we get back up again? How do we respond? How do we respond when we're under pressure from a practically militant media at this point? That is what you need. I want a leader in this state who is going to fight and crawl and scratch for every inch of the field that they take. Because whoever you elect to be your next governor is going to have to take on the federal government. Folks, let competition happen. Let this conflict happen. You will get stronger leaders. And this is what I know. We will whittle down the field. We will figure this thing out to make sure that we do not have a liberal Republican elected as governor again. But in the meantime, quit being such babies. Let the fight happen. Sit back and watch. Support the people that you believe in and jump in with both feet. Just go on this journey with us. Whoever your candidate is, go on the journey with us. And what you're going to find out is that when the field gets whittled down and we have one powerful conservative, that person is going to have deserved the spot. That's what I want to see. We haven't seen that in the Republican Party, and I'm going to be very candid with you. Part of the reason I wanted to run is because conservatives historically have run some of the most pathetic campaigns I can imagine. I'm thinking, everything we believe in is based on timeless principles. We believe, like the Founding Fathers do, in natural law, where you have countless historical examples to prove how it works. Right? Take shrinking government and cutting taxes. How often has that worked? Oh, every time? Oh, every time it's worked wonderfully. Somehow we're all gonna. But then we say, oh no, we gotta get this is a conservative. We'll let them go, and they run some horrific campaign and drive themselves into the ground, and then we're left scratching our heads, wondering, well, why do we have a liberal Republican again? Well, because you're taking on the machine. You think these special interest groups want to see somebody like me take the top of the ticket? Are you kidding me? Do you know I've advocated that on day one as governor, I would ban any state agency from hiring lobbyists. Thank you. Do you think you're going to see Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson write me a campaign check anytime soon? I can't figure it out. When I go to the banquets, these people, they all run away from me. They apparently don't like those ideas, but those are the kind of ideas we have to advocate for. We have to be able to convince other people in the soundness of our ideas and our policies, and we can accomplish that. And the model's been laid out for us. I want you to think of Ronald Reagan and his bid in 1966 for governor of California. Ronald Reagan, when he ran in that primary, I've watched the interviews, he was considered far too conservative to be governor of California. They asked him, they said, aren't you way too far right to actually, even if you won the primary, you could never defeat a Democrat here in California. But look at Reagan's story. He improved himself and his ability to offer his message and to grow the tent, not by watering down what he believed in, but by being bold. By being bold in his re-election campaign for president, he won 49 states, for crying out loud. Only George Washington got more of the proportion of the electoral votes than Reagan did. It's because he knew how to message our cause, and his legacy will forever be he ended global communism in the world. He took down the Soviet Union. Now we have a new purveyor of global communism in the world. It's the Chinese Communist Party. And we're, for the most part, completely asleep at the wheel. We're not even willing to recognize that China is actually an enemy to America. It's an enemy to Idaho. We have to stop pretending like these people are our allies or want to play nice with us. And it's going to start with the states. The second thing I want to do as governor, I believe that we ought to follow the model that I just spoke about, right? Shrink government, cut taxes. We need to abolish the income tax in the state of Idaho. Get rid of it. I think a lot of people worry and start overthinking the problem. They start thinking, oh my gosh, well if you do that, how are you going to replace the money? And are you going to, what other taxes will you have to raise to do it? Wrong, and wrong again. First, replace. Whoa, slow down there. Replace is a strong word, considering that I just told you your money goes to fund abortion activists and environmental leftist activists. Your money goes to only to support critical race theory. Why don't we stop funding that? How powerful would it be? Thank you. It's about time. How powerful would it be to have a finance guy at the helm who sit down at the governor's desk on day one on the second floor of the Capitol and say, bring me the budget for every agency in the state government and a box of red pens. The governor in this state has line item veto power. The governor in this state has line item veto power. We don't even know it. I'll tell you a really funny story, actually. When I first launched my campaign, I had a politician who's in leadership, actually, reach out to me, and, he thought he was pretty sharp, right? Because I'm just, I'm the new guy on the block, and he's been around, and he knows. And he says, Ed, you're talking about line item veto. The governor doesn't have line item veto. And I said, have you ever read the state constitution? It's right in the state constitution. So he was very embarrassed afterwards. That tells you something, right? I'm talking about this somebody in leadership in the legislature. Have they read the state constitution? The governor's got line item veto power. You have to understand how powerful that is. The Division of Financial Management is under the governor's purview. If you look at the budget recommendations that are crafted and passed by the legislature, the governor controls the budget in this state. The governor has way too much power in this state, but we can use it to get us back on the right track. Abolish the income tax for everyone. But let me tell you what it'll do for the average Idahoan. For the average Idahoan making $50,000 a year, that'll put about $3,000 more a year in your pocket. That's significant for our communities. It's not going to go to fund woke activists anymore, right? And I would love, if you have questions on some of the funding, I'd love to go into that. I've spoken for too long. I really want to get to your questions because I know Doug. Doug is fidgeting. He is just ready to grill me back there. Look at that smirk on his face. The third thing that would be so incredibly powerful in our state government is we have to start a serious effort to tackle corruption. A serious effort. Not just more word salad. That's not a buzzword, folks. Corruption has a very, very concrete definition. It's not a buzzword. Let me frame your understanding of how bad things are in Idaho. Just so you know, for a politician, Idaho is like the Wild West. You can do whatever the heck you want here. I'll give you an example. Think of this, Illinois, and I think I spoke about this last time I was here. Illinois is largely considered one of the most corrupt states in the country. I think out of the last 7 governors, I believe 4 of them went to prison. They have so many politicians in prison that they call it the Orange Jumpsuit Caucus. They still caucus together in prison. Here's my question, and look, I've spoken to thousands of Idahoans, and I'd be surprised if I'll get a right answer tonight, but I'll ask it because you need to realize what's going on. When's the last time a politician in the state of Idaho went to prison for corruption in government? There's a lot of people here that have been involved in politics for some time, who've lived in the state for a long time. Frank Church, what did he go to prison for? He did not Church. You're thinking Hansen? Hansen was evasion, tax evasion.
Frank Church was guiding checks.
Okay, Frank. So what year was that?
The 70s, early 70s.
I don't know that. Did Church go to prison? We'll have to look into that one. You threw me a curveball. I don't know that he went. Either way, was that what, 70s? Okay, let's say you're right. I'll just say you're right. 50 years ago? Folks, okay, all right, 30-odd years ago? I mean, are we ready to say that all the politicians are following all the rules all the time? Nobody goes to prison for corruption in this state.
I might add to that, George Hansen, and he was prosecuted under the IRS.
Yeah.
He wrote 2 anti-IRS books.
Mm-hmm.
One was called to, he wrote 2 of them.
Yeah.
One in about 81 or 82, and another one around 84, 85. And they came after him. That was abuse of power on the part of the IRS and the federal prosecutor.
Well, if you mess with the IRS, they will send Black Hawk helicopters after you. That's kind of their MO, right? Look, my point has been proven. Folks, that's not normal. That's not normal at all. In most states, you typically, every year, there's some big scandal about some politician that, took a bribe or, promised a political favor for a return of some political favor. It never happens in Idaho. I'm here to tell you it's not because they're all following all the rules all the time. We have to start seriously investigating and prosecuting corruption. And if we gave law enforcement the mandate to do it, they would carry it out. But law enforcement doesn't have the mandate and they don't have the resources. I'm going to tackle that problem. And I already have been as I've been campaigning. For those of you who have been following us on social media and watching the articles I've been writing, the op-eds and the press and the media, what you see is I just call it out for what it is. Let me tell you one of the interesting ones that just dropped. I was at eastidahonews.com today doing an interview, and he asked me, he says, Ed, what final remarks do you have? And you know, I kind of chide them a little bit because they got some decent investigative reporters, obviously, right? If any of you have kept up with the Daybell case and everything else, you know what I told them? I said, we need some investigative reporters to actually investigate corruption in this state. That would be amazing. And I told myself, I'll give you your first case. Here's an interesting one that ought to be considered. On August 31st of this year, the CEO, and I'm the one who dropped this, right? And I hope you've heard about it. And if not, that should worry you too. The CEO of the largest healthcare system in the state personally donated to our governor's re-election campaign, and exactly 3 weeks later, he announced he was injecting millions of our state tax dollars into that same healthcare system. Wow, the timing is just coincidental, isn't it? Nobody writes about it. You didn't hear about it on the evening news. Nobody talks about it. It's like the Wild West out here. Everybody can do whatever the heck that they want. So I could go on on the corruption issue for a long time. I just wanted to seed the discussion and get you thinking about it. So the 3 things that I believe would be so powerful for this state: school choice, abolish the income tax, stop funding the leftist activists, and tackle corruption in government. And we would then pass our state off as a proper inheritance to our posterity. Because everyone in this room is going to have to ask themselves a question. Are you going to be the first generation to pass America off in worse shape than you inherited it? That will be on everyone's shoulders in this room. There's been a lot of blood spilled for this country, for us to have it. I expect at the absolute minimum we can come together and knock on some stinking doors and make some phone calls and, oh goodness gracious, write a check to support somebody you believe in. That is your basic level of civic duty, and you're doing that by being here tonight. I'm grateful. This is a good first step, but we have a lot longer way to go. And so as you analyze this field in the governor's race, I want you to reconsider what you consider the proper role the governor is. I want you to actually challenge your thoughts on who you voted for in the past for governor. Because in some ways, we sadly, I believe we deserve much better, but we have the government we deserve in some ways. Because we've been manipulated over decades into believing this whole fallacy that the solution to society's problems are the professional politicians. We believe that. Every time we're what's their resume? What's the voting record, right? This, that, and the other. We have to have a politician to fix the problem. Folks, the politicians created the problems. The politicians created it. I want you to change that thought, because if you look at the models for positive change in our country's history, one of the things I think you'll find is the story of America is one of young patriots with a bold vision. It is. Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old when he crafted the Declaration of Independence. 19 of the signers of that declaration were in their 20s and 30s. And think of this, another founding father, after that declaration and a war for our independence and an initial founding charter, 11 years later, when the U.S. Constitution was drafted by James Madison, he was then 36 after 11 years. Folks, the founding fathers were young. I know you've looked at them with these learned men with flowing white hair. Folks, they were wearing wigs, in case you forgot. They were wearing wigs. They were young. Look right now, who's the youngest governor in the United States today? It's Ron DeSantis. So here's my shameless plug, because I get one every time I'm running for governor. I think that Idaho ought to one-up Florida. We need boldness right now. We need to understand what the governor does and doesn't do. Look to the Latin or Greek root of that word. It means a person who steers the ship's rudder. The governor doesn't run the day-to-day operations of all the agencies. We have many qualified people who can make sure that your faucets will continue to provide you with water, people to make sure the roads remain open. What the governor does is the governor determines direction. We are at a crossroads today. You can continue down this path as we've done for how long now and expect the politicians are somehow going to be the ones to solve this problem. Politicians who've never even advocated or brought forward a solution their entire political career, but suddenly, they run for office and they got all these incredible ideas all of a sudden, right? You can keep doing that, or you can try something different. I offer myself up to this process as something that's completely different. You've never seen a viable gubernatorial candidate like me before. You've never seen a campaign in this state run like this before. I couldn't be more proud of the team that we put together. We are doing an incredible job. And I wish you could see the data on how much progress we made. Folks, 6 months ago, nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew, well, maybe in southwestern Idaho, right? Because of some of the things I did in leadership. But I'm happy to talk to you guys about different things I've done in my past. I want to get to your questions. Some of the things, just to see that, the questions and answers. Some of the things that I've been involved in, the Citizens Committee for Election Integrity, for those of you who heard that story, that's an incredible story to hear about. As a private citizen, I did more to address what happened in the last election than any elected official in this state, right? And it's a really interesting story. What I did to grow the party in southwestern Idaho, right? How I became the region chair and the changes that I've been able to affect in that area and the changes that have been brought to the party. I'm happy to talk about that. Or my work working for trying to implement congressional term limits. Holy smokes, overdue, long overdue. But I've been behind the scenes. I haven't been the guy out in front trying to claim all the glory and all the credit. I figured there were people who were more qualified than me that could get the job done. I'm running for governor today because, unfortunately, this is what you got. I'm sorry, I know a lot of these folks. We need something new. And so I hope you'll join us on this journey. I believe it's our time now to take it back. We can change the course of it. It's not going to take that many people. We can raise the money. We can inspire people to get out in ways they never have before, but only if you commit to this cause. And what I can promise every one of you, and even my detractors know, and I'm sure we have a few here, and they'll grant me this, I'll look every one of you in the eye and promise you one thing: nobody will outwork me. That is a promise. Even my detractors will tell you I'm the hardest working son of a gun on a state ticket right now. I work 16 to 18 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I believe it's going to take that level of energy to beat the machine. It's going to take that level of energy to bring real change to the Capitol. I think that's what we need today. Thank you. So I'd love to get to your guys' questions. I know I took some time to elaborate a little bit on the platform and who I am, because I don't know many of you. I guess I give the mic to, please, can anyone else but Doug? I'm teasing you, Doug. Do you want the mic now?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask first question.
All right, let the grilling begin, huh? All right, let's get it going. Here you go, Doug. Hey, you gotta be polite, though.
I'm always polite, right? Okay, thanks, Ed, for I give Ed a big hand. He does well. Okay, there's a little bit of difference between today and our founding fathers.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And the truth is, every politician, in my experience, and I've been around a day or two, promises things. Says, I am this, I am that. But they turn out not to be that. Okay, so, and it's like I said before, you're asking us to trust you. And I'll be honest with you, right now I don't trust anybody. There's two people I trust right now. That's myself and my wife, because those are the ones
You
that
give her
I
that
know.
much credit?
I'm serious, you know, and this is deadly serious.
Yeah.
And this is deadly serious.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, one thing that I'd like to know, and a lot of people ask this, you're 31.
Yeah.
Great, and I admire you for your ambition in doing this, but what's your resume? You mentioned a resume a minute ago. What is the detailed resume? What qualifies you? What makes you think that you are qualified and have the experience at all to be the CEO of the state of Idaho? That's a heck of a job. Right now, it's hard to find out any information about you. Where'd you go to school? What school did you graduate from? What is your life history? I mean, you can find out more about me in 30 seconds than you can about you in 30 seconds on the internet.
Well, I'm going to push back. That's a crock, Doug.
Well, maybe, you know,
on my website,
I hear a lot of...
if you're gonna grill me, I get to push back.
Okay, and that's fine.
That's-
But like I said, it's part-
Respect
just a minute,
the checks and balances,
Just a
and
minute.
keep your authority where it belongs and
Oh,
never
it's
else.
okay. I can take it. I appreciate
asking.
it. I appreciate
Of the
it.
Constitution.
Ma'am,
I
And
appreciate
until
it.
you adhere to that, you will
Ma'am,
always be corruptible.
like I say, I'm asking.
Yeah, oh no,
Okay?
it's a great question. I
And
just
the
found
thing
that
is
last
here,
part.
we all have to understand, and I'd like to know what your real background is.
Yes.
And complete a resume. You're asking me to hire you for a job. Okay? And I need to see your resume. I need to understand this. Okay? So that I can make the best choice of the candidates, the applicants for this job. And I'm sorry if I offend some people, but this is important.
No, it is. Oh,
Okay, and so that's what I would really like to know now, if we can, is would you please detail out, where did you go to high school? Where did you do after
Someone
high
was
school?
listening.
Okay, well, I'm serious, you know, this is just a thing, it's a typical resume, you're
Yeah.
applying for a job.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see what that is,
Okay, yep.
And in all fairness, that gives us a basis to at least understand Ed, and where you come from, and where you can potentially take us to. I think it's a fair question.
Yeah, no, certainly. No, I appreciate the question, Doug, and I'm happy to answer. The one thing that I'll clear up, and I'll get to your question. One thing I'll clear up, you can go to my website, edforidaho.com, and it has a pretty lengthy section about my story, the organizations that I've been affiliated with, and the different positions that I've held. If you're looking more for a resume, what I would say is you got to understand, I never finished the 8th grade, Doug, right? So I did go on to do a couple of years in high school, but folks, this is important for you to understand because it's an important part of who I am. I was forged in the crucible of adversity, and I mean that. You have to understand, I came from a family that was an immigrant. When I was a kid, my mother cleaned hotel rooms, my father set tile, she cleaned offices. I went to work with my parents, right? I knew how to run a tile saw when I was 11 years old. And I moved out when I was 15 years old. I was a homeless teenager, right? I am very proud of that, incredibly proud of it, because that, I believe, personally, and I'll inject a little bit more of my belief into this, that has, because I've suffered as greatly as I have, that allows me to step into the murkiest, ugliest waters, like what I'm in right now, a complete and total slog, And the thing you got to understand about me, I never expected any of you to treat me well to start with, right? That's a benefit, in my opinion, because we need somebody who has a very thick skin to accomplish this thing. Thank you. I would say that the turnaround moment for me in my life was, like I said, when I got in the oil field. I started out as a hardbander.
Who'd you work for?
I worked for National. You're really going to go through it all.
Yeah,
National.
I'm sorry, Ed, and I do apologize
Yeah.
with this, okay? And I'll just say this. I understand your hardship. My grandfather at 8 years old was by himself,
Yeah.
okay? I understand hardship, okay? I understand that and I respect it, okay? But what I want is honesty. I want to know who Ed is. I want to know where he came from. I can deal with if you were this and you went through hell doing that. That's good, because I can step up with that and I can appreciate that. But if you won't tell me who Ed is, what did he do? And I'm not talking Ed's family. I'm talking Ed. What did Ed do?
I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about my family right now.
I know, but
Okay, I get the point, Doug. Let's continue on, okay? I get the point. Worked for National Oil Well Varco. I started out as a hardbander. I was a welder, and I went from rig to rig and welded on wear bands on drill pipe. I don't want to, this stuff really gets boring. Then I became a worm on a drilling rig for Capstar Drilling, and I worked my way up, and when I left the oil field, and when I met my wife, actually, I was working on drilling rigs. So I started out as a worm, right? I worked my way up to floor man and motor man and derrick man. And when I left, I was the second to the driller, and I was learning how to drill. But I met my wife, Holly, and at that time, you have to understand that I was a high school dropout, and Holly was getting ready to go get a master's degree. My wife inspired me to reach for more in my life. And I'm not saying that a college degree means everything. I'll actually tell you I have a lot of thoughts on the academic side and what I think about college now, but I'll save that for another question. And so I went and got a bachelor's degree at Western Governors University. So look, we had to make our own way. I went to online school to get a bachelor's degree, and look, this is accredited, right? I was able to work for a Fortune 500 company afterwards, but what you need to know is, and yeah, so I'll brag a little bit because I am proud of it. From start to finish, I finished a bachelor's degree in 13 months. Wow. 13 months, so I'm very proud of that. I don't ever talk about it, you don't hear about it. I've scored in the top 1% reading comprehension of all people in this country because I've always been a voracious reader. Even when I was not doing well in life, I read widely, deeply. I've been a student of history. That allowed me to become a financial planner, right? And so I started a Fortune 500, a limited partnership that you probably are familiar with at Edward Jones. And I started in the Treasure Valley, which is how Holly and I ended up there. And that's who I had been working for before I walked away from my book of business in March when I set out on this adventure. I burned the ships, folks. My wife and I made the biggest commitment anyone could make. I have nothing to go back to. I really believe that deeply in what we are in right now. I walked away, I was managing, and I'm proud of this, I was managing almost $40 million book of business. For a young guy who started out with nothing and came with no connections, I'm here to tell you, that's really good. If we have any financial advisors in the room, you would know. So I stepped away from that. I transferred my book of business. I had a solo practice. It was my office with my assistant. I walked away from that to step in this race. In the meantime, I've been the state director for a national organization called U.S. Term Limits, which is to get term limits on Congress. I was a precinct committeeman for the Ada County Republican Party and went on to be the Region 4 chair. So I'm on the executive board for the State Republican Party. I'm on the board of directors for the Meridian Library Foundation. Even still, I'll tell you actually the funny thing, they asked me a month ago if I wanted to be their press person, and I thought, you realize how much trouble I cause, right? I don't know if the foundation wants me handling that stuff, but I was the vice president of my Kiwanis Club, But here's what I want to tell you. Does any of that actually translate to governor for the state of Idaho? The answer is no, it doesn't, right? That's the beauty in what I'm talking to you now. We need people who know what it's like to work with their hands. People who've lived on both sides of the track. I've picked people up from the gates of prison before. How valuable is that? When we have a problem in the Department of Corrections, wouldn't you want a governor who said, all right, let's get in the pickup and let's drive down and walk through and see what's going on. What's our money going to? Where's the hang up? Why are we having a problem here or there? We need someone who won't hear it from a lobbyist what's going on, but somebody who will go and see it for themselves. And so this has been a big part of my story. And I want you to know, I've never held elective office before. It's true. That's the best thing you could ask for right now. Please understand that's the best thing you got, because my understanding has not been framed by the status quo. And we'll get to your question. One thing that you said, Doug, that I want to be very clear on, though, you said you've always heard from politicians who made a lot of promises, and then we were betrayed. We've all been through this countless times. How many people have let us down? Here's one thing I want you to understand about why I ran for governor. People ask, why not, Ed, why not the legislature, right? You're great, you're conservative, why not work your way up? Folks, here is the first thing you need to understand. Nobody running for the legislature can promise you squat. They can't promise you a thing. They are part of a deliberative body that doesn't deliberate, like you saw this week. You can't make a change there. If you look at change agents in our country today, Ronald Reagan was never in the legislative branch. He was in the executive because you could deliver in the executive. President Trump was never in the legislative branch. He was in the executive. Now you have Joe Biden, who spent a lifetime in the legislative branch. How does that feel? Right? You get the picture, folks. We don't need politicians to step up to the top. And this is the last thing I'll say, and I'd love to take other questions. We, in this state, I think we've really, I want to word it correctly. Well, I guess what I would express to you is that we have to make sure that anyone we elect actually understands what they can and can't do, and understands the levers they can and can't pull, and shouldn't overpromise you anything. I'll tell you one of the biggest things we have to do. We have to begin to divorce our state from the federal government and its money. And I don't mean a secession. We have to divorce ourselves. But I hear other candidates that throw out these ideas that are completely and totally wacky and impossible and would never work. The reality is sometimes the answer, the solution to a problem, is a whole lot of hard work and some sacrifice. I have a plan of how we can begin to divorce ourselves from the federal money, but it has to be systematic. It cannot be overnight. I wish it could. More than anyone, I wish it could. But the federal money makes up 40% of the budget. This is why we have to strengthen our economy first, get on our own 2 feet, and then begin systematically divorcing ourselves from the federal money, and it starts with education. These are things the governor can absolutely do. Now, the governor can't, send the national. I'll tell you right now, this is one of the things I hear. Oh, the governor should send the National Guard and, shut down Planned Parenthood or send them to the border. Folks, the governor doesn't control the National Guard. That's the biggest farce ever. And this is what worries me, is we have leadership that doesn't even understand what they can and can't do. Folks, the president controls the National Guard. I know it's called the Idaho National Guard, but at the end of the day, depending on what title they're under, they can be federalized at any moment, and they will follow the president's directives. Look at Eisenhower, look at LBJ. I believe Obama had a stint with that. We don't even have our own state defense force. California has its own state defense force that answers only to the governor. and no one else. We don't have one here in Idaho. So I throw that out to you because I think what we need to understand, if we're worried about promises not being delivered, let's talk about what an individual can or can't do. But as far as my history, I know I've offered you a lot of information, and some of you will want to revisit that. You can go to the website, read through the website. There's a lot of material there. And I think you'll find that this is very different than what you've seen before. I couldn't be more proud of that. My hope is that my run will inspire other people to make similar decisions in their life and put everything on the line to stand up for something they believe in and sacrifice it all. And my hope is that we will forever change the face of politics. That's my goal. That's my dream. So I appreciate. Do you want to ask other questions? We have a couple other people have
Yeah, I
questions.
just want to make one comment. One quick comment. You know, this is my opinion, but I think if he's come from diversity and the issues that he had, don't shy away from it. Who here has heard of Mike Lindell? Okay, of course. And he politics basically on. He's a crackhead. Used to be. He's not shying away from his past. Okay, and the thing there, and what I would advise you, is if you really, your history, your story, okay, I didn't make it out of 8th grade, you know, I did this, I did that, you know, but you know what, I picked myself up by my bootstraps, and this is what I did, and this is how I got here. You know, I got a master's degree from whatever, you know, Western Governors University, and that indicates perseverance. You were here, and you had these issues and challenges, but you came here. To me, that's a selling point. It's not, I don't want to talk about this because I'm afraid of it or embarrassed of it.
Yeah.
Oh, hell no. You know, I'm proud of this. I was born here, I was here like this, and this is what I've done. And this is why I think that I have the what it takes to be governor, to be in this job. The minute somebody starts hiding their past or backing away from it, something goes up in my mind. And so I would advise that to you, I would advise that to anybody. It's like I say, it's not what you started from.
Yeah.
It's how you got to where you are.
That's the American dream, right?
That's right. And so from that perspective, if everything you say is true, and I do believe it's true, I would capitalize on that.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I say, my grandfather, at 8 years old, was riding a train back in the 1800s. I mean, and so I understand diversity. Okay, so that is the one thing, again, that I hear a lot from other people. What qualifies you? What's your history? So I would capitalize on that if I were you.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the American dream. So I told the gentleman over here, I think it was you had a question, right? I want to honor that.
Well, I was just going to comment earlier that, like, I don't care if someone has a shallow resume, if they have the right ideas, versus someone who has a deep resume, has the wrong ideas, apathetic, or has beholden to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't care what your background is. Like, if you made it from nothing to something, like, great, that's wonderful. But if somebody just came from a middle-class family and has always been middle-class, like, that doesn't make them any better or less or anything else. Like, it's about the ideas. So I don't care what your resume is. I care how effective a leader you can be based on your ideas.
I love that. I love that you said that. And here's one of the things that actually I believe he's kind of touching on. Folks, we got to get back to understanding some of the things the Founding Fathers taught us. And one of the things that they taught us was natural law. This is what you need to understand about that. They believed, and I believe it as well, that there are timeless principles in the universe, that when you honor those principles, there is a natural consequence that follows from honoring them. Here's the kicker about natural law. It matters not who leverages or honors that timeless principle. Doesn't matter who does it. The natural consequence follows. What you're talking about is the vision. What is the way forward? Folks, Alexander Hamilton, not only was he insanely young when he was George Washington's aide-de-camp, but Alexander Hamilton was the first Secretary of the Treasury in our country. He was literally, this is not exaggeration, you need to read about this, he was literally tasked with building a new nation's economy. Do you know how much finance or economic experience Alexander Hamilton had? None. He literally read a few books. Not kidding you right now. Literally read a few books and laid down the foundation for an economy that would create the greatest nation on earth. Folks, we need capable leadership. We need people who think outside the box, who aren't afraid to take big risks. This journey, this adventure for me and my wife is a really big risk. I think it's worth it. I have no regrets. I believe this gentleman had a question. I'm trying to go in order. Doug, could you help me kind of manage and make sure I'm honoring when people raise their hands? Yeah, actually, I'll make Doug the bad guy. Doug, you point out who's next. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Alexander Hamilton was pro-central bank.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Jefferson fought him vociferously on that point, and thank God Jefferson won the battle. Because Alexander Hamilton, while he was a good man, was part of the founding fathers, was trying to create a Federal Reserve Bank in 1776, which was bad news. And it's part of the big problem we've got going on in the country today.
We do have a problem with the Federal Reserve today, yep.
But my question goes to a comment you made earlier.
Well, first, let's answer that part. That is, economics is not as simple as the subject as everyone wants. Remember, Alexander Hamilton was tasked in his late 20s, early 30s with taking all the debt that the different states had amassed and fixing it and bringing it to an end, because we had just gone through a war with the greatest navy and army in the world, and the toll was quite great on our country. And he had to figure out how to navigate our nation out of that crisis. The reality is, I would like to see a better solution than what he had implemented at the time. Am I claiming that Alexander Hamilton was perfect? No, not claiming he was perfect. But by golly, did he not get us out of that problem and help to form a union amongst those states so that we could be a strong country, so that when Britain came back in 1812, we could wage an effective battle and maintain our sovereignty? Yeah, I think the answer to that question is yes. So certainly, look, I could stand up here, I could pick apart 100 things Donald Trump did wrong. President Trump was a great president, right? I tend to think he did something wrong last week, but that's my opinion. Look, there's no reason to grade somebody solely on some mistakes that they made. What's the legacy? What's what they accomplished? But please, I don't want to get into an economic back and forth. I could go on for hours, because I wrote my thesis actually on monetary theory and the gold standard, know quite a bit about central banking and currency and the like. And so we don't need to go into the weeds and bore everyone, but I did want to offer that. I think Alexander Hamilton was an incredible founding father and did a lot for this country.
I think he did too, but it wasn't on finance.
Okay, agree to disagree.
So going to your question, or your statement earlier, you stated that you would try to create some kind of a prohibition to keep lobbyists from being appointed to government positions, either under the governor or I don't know who all you were proposing.
In the state government at all.
So it seems to me like an impossible, if not near impossible, proposition. How do you identify a lobbyist? I mean, a lobbyist, do they have an official title?
Yes, they have to register.
Yeah, but in reality, they may be lobbying officially. There are things that a private individual can do without a license. The licensed person simply cannot.
Yeah, and I've been one of those people. The question is, were you compensated by somebody to advocate for a piece of legislation?
Yeah, but you could do that without a license.
Yeah,
You
but
can do that over a cup of coffee sitting
certainly.
down in Perkins.
Yep.
So, are you suggesting that you would identify these lobbyists that you would like to bar from government service only if they're licensed? That's what you're suggesting then.
There's no license.
Registered. Well,
Yeah.
registration is a license. They operate,
Yeah, fair
they
point.
operate the same.
Fair point. Yeah, these people are registered in the state government. We know exactly who they are, and it's not appropriate that they get cushy jobs, then lobbying for universities and making immense amounts of money. The reality, this is why incumbents frequently get reelected, is because what you don't realize is not only do they have an immense amount of ability to fundraise because of all the special interest groups that will insulate them and prop them up, but here's the other reason why incumbents frequently win a re-election. You pay for their campaign team. That's a pretty wonderful thing. I wonder what my team would accomplish if I could add another 50 people that I didn't even have to fundraise to pay. That's how they do it, is these people get very cushy government jobs with benefits and the like. And sure, they show up at the department or agency in which they work. I'm not saying they don't. How many hours? That's up for debate. How many hours do they spend volunteering for the re-election campaign, right? You get the picture. This is how the game has been played for a long time. I would ban any state agency from hiring lobbyists. It's inappropriate, and it's one of the major problems right now in our system. And there's a number of things we could speak to on campaign finance reform and troubles that we have with corruption and lobbyists right now. But you want to know why the session came to an end? I don't know if you were there, Doug, but essentially what happened is you had a the Senate State Affairs Committee come together, and the Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry, and the Idaho Medical Association, the Idaho Hospital Association, the lobbyists from St. Luke's and St. Al's and Micron and Simplot all showed up. And they said, shut it down. And what happened? Got shut down. These people call the shots today. These are the people who run the state government. You want to know who helps craft our governor's press releases? That's an interesting thing. I encourage you to put in some Freedom of Information Act requests to get the answer to that question. These people craft the press releases. They craft the policy, and they tell legislators what goes up and what goes down. That has to come to an end. It's our time now. It's got to be us now. Who do we got next? Okay.
Okay, you gotta be quick, because he caught me late, so Julie.
Okay. If the federal government forgets that they have limits in the Constitution, which they're doing all the time, specifically recently with the issuing of that OSHA mandate for 100 employees in a government in a business, that they can mandate that their employees, have to have the jab. What would you do about those mandates as a state invoking the 10th Amendment, where the states have their own rights what would you do about those kinds of things?
I love this question because this is one of the most important questions right now in our lifetime. How are states going to reassert their sovereignty? And I will tell you, it's not actually a matter of sovereignty as we think, but it's a matter of funding. We've lost our funding, or we've lost our sovereignty because we have subjected Idaho agencies to federal bureaucracies. And the reason we have is because we take the money from them. They run the show, they call the shots. My biggest criticism of both Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump is they should have eliminated the Department of Education in DC. But they should have eliminated. These people at the Department of Education in DC do not know what bathroom to use. You want them educating your children? You've lost your mind if you want these people educating their children. They fund and provide funding for our government, and so we have to play ball. So it doesn't actually matter, sadly, right, horrifically, it doesn't matter what the Constitution says, it matters what the fine print on the last grant you got from the federal government says. Here's how we do it. First, we have to insulate and elevate Idaho's economy. I believe abolishing the state income tax would do just that for a number of reasons. Not only would you see immediate and significant real wage growth for all workers in the state, you would see profits for businesses in this state rise, but something else will happen. And my eyes have been open to this since I've been running for governor. One of the unique opportunities of running for a ticket like this, you get to meet with a lot of the, call them influential stakeholders in the state, these businessmen worth, hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars. Here's the thing that I found. They've moved to Florida. Florida has a law in the books that if you live there, I think for 6 or 7 months of the year, you don't have to pay income taxes in Florida. Now they love Idaho, they live in Idaho, but they live in Florida, right? It's because Florida has no income tax. If we do that, you have to understand, here's what will happen. We're not going to keep getting the big woke businesses. We actually don't want them. We don't need another Amazon here in Idaho. What we need is the small CNC machinist that has 50 employees that is sitting in California thinking, whoa, this place is going to hell in a handbasket. I'm going to move to Idaho. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to say, hey, there's no income tax there. They're going to bring their business here. We will have more higher paying jobs. We have to elevate our state economy first and have better paying jobs and have a stronger, more robust economy. Then we can systematically and methodically divorce state agencies from the federal government. And the first area that is ripe for it is in education. We can very quickly divorce ourselves from money in the education sphere. It's only 10 to 15%. Now, look, I get, yes, CARES money and ARPA and blah, 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 but folks, generally it's 10 to 15%. We can fund education here in Idaho. This can be done. Once we show there's a path and we accomplish it in education, then we continue to move on through the state government and wean ourselves off. And then we will get to a point where the federal government will try some crazy stuff like what they've been doing, and the state of Idaho will just say no. Nope, we're not playing along. And the feds will say, well, we'll pull your funding, and we'll say, oh, we did it for you. We did it for you. That's what has to happen. Yeah, who's next then?
Can I just follow that up? Do you think you can just wipe it out? I mean, the legislature makes the laws. Can you just say, okay, we're going to just
The governor controls the budget in the state at the end of the day. Now, the legislature has Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee, but I have done the research. The vast majority of if you go down the budget, it is the governor's budget. The governor's Division of Financial Management crafts the recommendations which the legislature passes. When those appropriation bills get through JFAC, they actually, look, this is on the legislative budget book. They brag about this. 99% of those appropriations are signed. 99%. It's the governor's budget through and through. So the answer is yes, I absolutely believe that for a few reasons. One, the governor's ability to oversee the Division of Financial Management. Two, the governor's line item veto power, because at the end of the day, right, they can go a different route and the governor can veto, right?
But not on things that have already been passed.
That's three.
Sorry. You
That's,
got two big ones.
Okay. All right, so, Bill.
You were talking about 77,000 people voted in the last cycle, right?
for Brad Little, yes.
That was before COVID. People were sleeping at the wheel,
Yep.
and we were all very comfortable, and we knew you were going to elect a Republican governor, and it didn't matter who it was. Things are going to change this cycle. People got hope.
I think you're right.
People got hope.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right.
now you have an issue with splitting the vote. This is a practical question.
Oh, yeah.
Lieutenant Governor
Mhm.
does not really have a lot of responsibility in the state, but we've seen in her 3 years, basically her positions.
Like what?
Freedoms.
Like what?
Anti-mandate, at least in her speeches. She doesn't have a lot
Okay.
of power. She doesn't
Point
have-
made.
But
Anyway.
in the Constitution, she does not have a lot of power in the state of Idaho.
The second highest, now I get what you're saying, by the duties prescribed in the Constitution, sure, there could be an argument, but the Lieutenant Governor is the President of the Senate, the same body that just went away.
We haven't had a time in the Senate where she had to break.
It comes, leadership is more than that. This is my problem in the political sphere. Leadership is more than that. This is my problem in the political sphere. We so often believe, it's operated often in politics like a call center. It's like, well, you can't do this because of this and this and this and that. Folks, this is why Donald Trump was so popular. Because Donald Trump said, hey, we're going to build a wall, we're going to make Mexico pay for it. And they lost their minds. Like, what? You can't say that. That's not possible. You can't do it because of this, this, and that. Right? Donald Trump thought outside the box and he charged ahead. That's the kind of leadership that I think we need.
I believe a couple of things she did went outside the box, and when Little came back, put it back in the box. But that's not the question. The question is, practically, you guys are going to be neck and neck.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to split the vote. Lots of liberals will register as Republicans to vote, and you're going to see maybe more than 77,000 people voting in this side.
I anticipate, so 77,000 voted for Governor Little. To be clear, 190,000 people participated in the last Republican primary. I anticipate about 230,000 will participate in this next one.
I think you're lowball, but let's say you're going to give if you guys split the vote, Little wins.
Yeah, no, that very well could be true. If it's 230,000 votes and you expect him to take, say he could take 100,000 votes now. I kind of doubt that he would have even more support. But let's say a lot of Democrats re-register and support him.
A lot of liberal money and liberal support is going to come to him because they now see the opposition.
Well, you know who funded him in the last one, right? I mean, look at the finance that in the last Republican gubernatorial primary. The two biggest spenders and independent expenditures in support of our current governor was the Idaho Education Association and the Conservation League. Leftist organizations pushed him over the line through a PAC called the Independent Republicans for Idaho PAC, right? If you want the truth in politics, follow the money. This is a big problem, there's no doubt. But this is what I'm commenting on. Folks, we are still a long way away from before anyone can pull out to make sure that their name isn't on the ballot. Look, I got a family to raise. We got young kids at home. You think I just want to run this to the bitter end with no chance in sight? No, I have faith that we'll be able to get this figured out. We're all smart people. I believe everybody's heart is in the right place. I think we will come together and figure this out, but in the meantime, I want to see a very vigorous primary. I want to see debates, for crying out loud. And I'm sorry, I have a hard time having confidence in anyone who wants to be the leader of this state, but is not willing to debate me. Why is that? We need to have debates immediately, but don't wait. Do it now. Let the free exchange of ideas have its day. Let us duke it out. That will make for stronger candidates, better leaders. I think, honestly, I honestly believe this. This was the best thing this was the greatest gift the conservatives could have, because we all forced each other to up our game. Nobody gets to just ride in on the coattails of President Trump, right? Nobody just gets to work, here and there and take several vacations and then, slide in. No, we're taking on the machine. I want somebody who will fight and crawl and scratch for every inch of the field. That's what I expect to see in the leader who's going to challenge the federal government.
I totally agree, and I think that debates will happen. The question was a practical solution to the split vote.
I'm saying we'll figure it out in March, right?
The reality is scary that Little wins again.
I agree with you. My family doesn't want that. No one in this room wants that.
And we need to,
Yep.
right.
Yeah.
To some extent, the situation that the country finds itself in is partially due to the silent majority's complacency and lack of involvement. As many of us are now getting off the sidelines and into the playing field, what do you see as the role of the Idaho citizens in establishing a collaborative environment with your governorship and the rest of the politicians in the state? We need to get involved. We need to figure out how to get involved so that we can be productive and effective.
I love this question, because this is the height of personal accountability. This is what we need. That's what civic duty is, right? Anyone remember JFK? Ask not what your government can do for you, but what you can do for your government. That was lost a long time ago, but we gotta bring it back, right? Folks, all of us, any candidate in this race only represents a small part of this movement. It has nothing to do with me. I submit myself to the process. I'm willing to suffer through the slog. I'm willing to do the work. But at the end of the day, Ed Humphreys is not going to be the sole person who's going to turn it all around in this state. It has to be a movement. It has to be all of us. Because even if I was successful in this campaign, folks, we still got to be successful in implementing that agenda. We still have to pressure the legislature. We got to get new legislators elected. This is just the beginning of our journey. And so what I look for, and one of the major reasons that I stepped into the race was because I felt like me and the team that I could build would outmaneuver and outflank any politician in the state. And you have to build an organization to get out the vote. You have to build an organization to coordinate thousands of volunteers across the state. You have to build an organization to get the word out and your message out and to combat the media, right? And the fake news. Without that organization, it's not going to happen. Folks, a candidate like me does not get as far as we've got without building one heck of an organization. We got a long way to go. I'm not saying I would win the election tomorrow, but son of a gun, you've never seen in this state's history, I am the first time you've had a viable, totally independently funded candidate. I have no money from any special interest group or super PAC. I'm not writing in on any kind of endorsement or anything else. Everything we have is because this team has fought and crawled and scratched for every inch of the field, right? That's the organization we need to win this thing. And so I would say this to all of you, jump in with both feet. Don't hold back, jump in. Support any of the candidates that you prefer today. Jump in now, help those candidates. If you believe in my vision, help me. If you believe in what one of the others believes, help them. But I'll tell you the biggest problem, and it's shameful because it's conducting yourself with no honor. I see it all the time in politics. It's shameful. Everybody wants to get behind the winning horse, right? Oh, who's doing better today? Who's doing better? That's shameful. That means you stand for nothing except politics. Stop. Jump in. It's okay if you get beat up a little bit. You'll be better for it. So please, just get involved. I appreciate that question. Thank you. Yeah, who else do we have to?
Yeah, would you promote and support paper ballots and manual tabulation?
Okay. I'm glad you asked this question. I will. It is getting late, and I'm seeing people walk out. So unfortunately,
Would you repeat it?
yes, he's asking, would you support manual tabulation and paper ballots? I'm not going to have enough time to tell you the story about the Citizens Committee for Election Integrity that I founded and the election standards that we crafted that were passed into the congressional record that were adopted by the RNC, in which now tens of millions of dollars is funding at the national level to prevent the same travesty that happened in this last election from ever happening again. It's a long story. There's a lot to it. You can go to edforidaho.com and you can read about election integrity and the points that we passed. This is one thing I'll say about the conservatives. We have to understand very clearly how the fraud happened in the last election and how it didn't happen. Because if we're going to be effective in navigating the terrain, we got to have an accurate understanding of the field, right? You have to have an accurate understanding of that terrain. The way the Democrats manipulated this last election has been how they've conducted themselves through various private organizations for almost 50 years now. I encourage you, study Obama's life more. You want to talk about a resume, study the organizations that Barack Obama worked for and how they operated themselves. Study the refugee resettlement programs and how the absentee ballots work. So what I would tell you is I believe the 14 points that we crafted on how to ensure free and transparent elections would absolutely secure our elections in this state. Paper ballots are an absolute must. There has to be a trail. You have to be able to audit a trail, right? And so these are changes that we can make to ensure that we never allow that kind of travesty to happen again. I'm glad you're asking about election integrity. It's a topic that has been forgotten by many and shouldn't be. But I'll tell you the number one thing, actually, if you want to do the biggest splash you can make in Idaho for election integrity, ban ballot harvesting. Should be illegal. Should not exist. That's the number one, the biggest change you can make. Doug, are we out of time, or are there more questions?
We have as much time as we want to go. Right.
Okay. Yep.
So, I feel like that we have been betrayed by the Republican Party in Idaho, and that's evidenced by what we saw at the special session this week. And you have talked about your movement up within the Republican Party, especially in the Boise area, Eagle area. So my question, I guess, is what have you done within the Republican Party to change the atmosphere?
Yeah, no.
Away from the complacency or whatever it is, the dishonesty, the corruption, that's within. We all feel betrayed by both parties,
yes,
including the Republican Party, and yet you've moved up within that party. So
when you say moved up within, I'll say this. I've been involved in the Republican Party for not even 2 years. I don't know that you could say I'm an establishment guy by any stretch of the imagination, because I've made a lot of waves.
Very quickly by your own.
Yeah, and the way that I did it, you want to know how? Because I have an actual track record of growing the Republican Party. You know what I did is I helped start an organization we called it, does this sound familiar? Make Ada Great Again, right? And what we did is we recruited 105 precinct committee officers, PCOs as you often hear them called out here, to run for office, and out of the 105 that we recruited, 90 of them won. 90 of them won, and we had control of the 2/3 of the voting power in the largest county Republican Party in the state. And we were able to elect all new leadership. Out of the 9 legislative districts in Ada County, we got new leadership in 7 of the 9 legislative districts in Ada County. Am I saying that every person we replaced was perfect? No. But I jumped in, and this is the one thing. Don't let those things hold you back. So often we want to hold ourselves to this perfect standard that doesn't exist. Folks, you're going to make mistakes. I have made mistakes. I'm going to continue to make mistakes. Here's what I want to see: an authentic and genuine effort that does not take no for an answer, continue to push for the things that we believe in. And I brought fresh blood into the party. And just so you know, the Ada County Party, we went the 6 months before we had a changeover in leadership. The party raised, I'm not exaggerating, I'm not kidding you. The videos I did about raised 17 cents. Folks, the interest from the bank account, I'm not exaggerating. That's how bad the Republican Party was. And I don't have the exact numbers after, but it was well over 6 figures that we raised after. Ada County, guess what happened? You know what else we did? We took back the Board of Commissioners from the Democrats. We took down what in my personal opinion, is the strongest Democrat candidate in the state of Idaho. She was a county commissioner. Her name was Diana Lasciando. She's articulate. She's a good-looking gal. She knows her stuff in and out, and she can fundraise. She's a machine. That gal will run for governor of the state on the Democrat ticket, and it's a scary thing. We took her down, right? We took back the Board of Commissioners. We took back a legislative seat. And for the first time in a long time, of our elected representatives in Ada County, it went from being a majority blue to a majority red. So what I just described to you is, we flipped Ada County. Folks, I'm very proud of that. We don't often, I love this question. Thank you for asking.
My question is actually from somebody that could not be here, but she asked me if I would ask this question. Okay, it says, do you have a plan to fight the vax mandates, and if you have that plan to help those, and if you have a plan to help those who are and will be terminated due to the mandates. I know that she asked a question earlier, but I'm not quite sure that this one drills a little bit.
No, this breaks my heart. She's asking, how would you actually address the vaccine mandates and all the harm that it's caused so far, right? And this is one that strikes close to home. You have to understand, when this stuff started coming out, just so you know, my wife had just delivered our baby girl, Ruby, and I'm not exaggerating. She got an email. So mind you, as you go through the whole process at the hospital, when they discharge you, it's all about postpartum depression, rightfully so. A lot of great mothers go through a hard time after they have a baby. And so they're so sensitive about, postpartum depression and making sure mothers don't go through that. Literally, how many days after, Holly, was it you got an email to get the vax or you were going to be fired?
It was the day of our session.
Oh yeah, the day our baby was born. Literally, you can't make this up. So we didn't know about it till probably a week after, because, well, I guess she didn't check her emails for a week, but I think you're allowed that. Folks, literally the day we were having a baby girl, they told us, oh, by the way, you're going to lose your job if you don't take an experimental medical treatment while you're breastfeeding a newborn. That's how sick these people are. That is twisted. That's a whole, I'm not a medical professional, folks. I will not tell you whether to take it or whether not to. My wife and I have chosen, for our own reasons, not to. And she now has a religious exemption. And she has a religious exemption, because you got to get an exemption for basic freedom today. She's got a religious exemption for now. That's probably going to go by the wayside. So think of it. Not only did I walk away from my book of business and my income, and then my wife is on the line for what she stands up for, what she believes in. That's a courageous woman back there. I hope you'll take time to say hi to her and get to know her, because our family has suffered immensely on this journey, but it's worth it. It's worth it for our country. This is an issue I will not ignore, but I have to tell you, one, if you had the right governor, it never would have happened in the first place. It's the absolute truth. You wouldn't even needed a law. I promise you. That's the absolute truth. When the three largest healthcare providers, all on the same day, somehow announced one of the biggest labor policy changes to a significant portion of the state workforce. Folks, St. Luke's is the third largest employer in the state. Number one is the state of Idaho. Number two is the federal government. So they're the largest private employer in the state. St. Al's is the 8th largest employer. We're talking a significant part of Idaho's workforce, all on the same day. They said, oh, we're mandating the jab. That doesn't happen without a little bit of collusion and coordination. And I happen to know that our current governor sat in on a meeting with a number of individuals from organizations, special interest groups like the Idaho Hospital Association, and they got the green light to do that. It only happened because they ever got the green light in the first place. Now, I can't prove that, and I should be careful about making claims I can't prove, but that's really what happened in this state. It would have never happened if you had a governor who they should have known that you should have a governor where they don't even try. You should have that kind of governor, right? You should have a governor that when Joe Biden, through his demented, I don't even know, withdrawal from Afghanistan, where you see the death of members of the military like you saw in our withdrawal from Afghanistan, and he wants to come into Idaho, the last thing Joe Biden needed was a good listening to, like he got from our current governor. That's what he got, good listening to. We came, literally the headline, the quote, today we came together to listen. So let me go ahead and say this, because I don't want to be nasty. Folks, Brad Little is a nice guy, okay? He's a nice guy. This is why he got elected. He's a nice guy. He puts a cowboy hat on. He takes some pictures of throwing bells. Hey, I'll tell you this, believe it or not, one of the other big ranchers in the state is his, this is kind of funny. I probably shouldn't share with this group this big, but you'll laugh. So his cousin is one of the biggest ranchers in the state, and actually I sat down with him, and he's a big supporter of the campaign. And you want to know what he told me? He said, and I'm just quoting here, so don't hold it against me, but he told me, he said, That son of a bitch never threw a bale of hay in his life till he ran for office. They had to get a picture of it. I'm sorry. Hopefully, don't send that to the media. I don't like cursing, but I just thought
I
that
don't
was.
censor anything.
I don't. Oh, you see how this guy is, folks. I shouldn't tell those stories to big groups like this. But literally, I mean, you got to know what we're up against, right?
You need to answer this question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in storytelling mode. I'm having too much
I
fun.
know, but I have kids who need to go to bed, and my husband has already been fired. Not for not taking the job, but for starting a petition against the job. And it's affected me, and it's already affecting people.
Oh yeah.
And I'm glad you got your religious exemption. In my opinion, exemptions just tell people that the mandates are okay, and I needed exemptions. And it's been hurting my family. We've been out of the job for almost 2 months now.
Yeah.
I need you to answer the question of what you're going to do. We know we have a crappy governor, and we know we should have had a better governor, but that doesn't help us now.
The legislature was the only body. I don't have. Look, I'm not. This is something you're not going to like. Today, what happened today was the end of what this state government was going to do.
I know. That's right. I want the question of what you're going to do. Like, what's your answer?
You cannot. You're not. It's You cannot backdate. You can't backdate laws. That's unconstitutional. So even as governor, I wouldn't come into office until January 2023. How do you go back and right all those wrongs? How do you go back and right those wrongs? You can't. We are suffering right now, and you're suffering.
Line item veto.
How are you going to keep them from happening again?
I think I'm pretty clear. We should ban vaccine mandates, right? The state of Oregon banned vaccine mandates for their healthcare employees in 1989, and for 30 years you would have been just fine going to a hospital in Oregon. It's not appropriate. We cannot start making medical decisions for other people. Even if this vaccine was the greatest thing since sliced bread, even good vaccines have a very small percentage where there are serious adverse consequences. And if you mandate that, it's like you're playing the Hunger Games. I mean, you're basically putting people's lives up on the lottery. It's unethical, it's inappropriate. It should be banned. But like you, I'm heartbroken today to see that our legislature, our Republican legislature, didn't address it. This is why my family's putting everything on the line. And I wish I could offer you up something where we could go back and right those wrongs. But you can't do that, unfortunately. This is why we have to put everything on the line right now. There's no more time left, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry what your family is suffering through. I mean that. I see this across the state. It breaks my heart. And I know you guys stood up for something you believed in. I promise you, that is a timeless principle. It will come back unto you. You guys will navigate this, and I wish I could offer more to help you than just telling you that, but I know it's true. And I'll say this, and I believe that this is not a cliche, but it deserves to be said. Every adversity has the seed of a greater opportunity. Every adversity does. I believe that to my core. That is not a cliche. And I know you're suffering immensely, but I hope through this opportunity, your family comes out better than ever before, and you'll look back and you'll understand why. I wish I could solve it. I really wish I could.
I want it to be solved for others. We know that
I know.
it can't be solved for us, and we're working on solving it ourselves, because we believe it's up to us.
Yeah.
I just want to know how to keep it from happening to others.
We can never allow subject matter experts to make decisions for other people. That is socialism, it's communism, and it won't just stop in the healthcare sphere. My family lived through these Dr. Fauci's. They're not just doctors in the healthcare sphere. I'm telling you, they will dictate every detail of your life. They will. That's how it is in communist countries. Thank you, though, for sharing your story. I know that's difficult to do. I'm sorry you have to go. I wish you could connect with more people here. This is what I would say for those business owners in the room. When you hear something like that, you have a civic duty as well. You need to find families that are suffering like this. These are your next employees. If they want to start a business, these are the people you invest in. So please, I hate that they have to leave right now. I know we have some business owners in the room. Do not let that chance escape. These are people who believe so deeply that they put everything on the line and they're going through that, those are the kind of people you want in your business. Those are the kind of business people you want to invest in. Take note. Yeah.
This is actually a second part to that question besides the mandates. It's like, how would you help those people whose jobs were terminated? Would you have you thought about a plan to help people that lose their jobs? That was the second part of the question. Maybe
Well,
that's what she was wanting me to answer.
and that's what she wants to know. But what I'm saying is when you have a governor come in January of 2023, right? How do you go back and actually make those changes? Here's what I'm saying, is that I think that in this adversity, what we're going to find is, well, one, the most important thing, we're going to find each other. But the other thing that we're going to find is our economy is going to start to change. Let me tell you how this is happening. In southwestern Idaho, you have the traditional woke hospitals, St. Luke's and St. Al's and the like, but there's another hospital out there. I'm not here to do anyone's advertisements, but the Treasure Valley Community Hospital. They have 8 applications for every job in that whole hospital. 8 applications. I happen to know many people in our families also getting ready to do it, that's getting ready to change their provider to a different hospital and a different system, right? So that we can do business with people who believe in American values. That's what we all have to do. We have to start making difficult decisions, like to stop supporting woke companies. We have to start to build up small and medium-sized businesses again and do business with them, local businesses, local restaurants. Quit doing business with woke industry. And I'll tell you, this is one thing, I think Charlie Kirk is a modern day American hero for this. He's helped pioneer mapping out this woke industrial complex. There's also another organization called Second Vote, where you can go, and it's a very small, I think it's like $15 a year or something, and you can go see all the different businesses that have gone completely woke and why they call them woke with facts and information to prove it. Stop doing business with them. Stop. I'll give you one just from the other day. Twix candy bars. Has anyone here seen the commercial they put out over Halloween? That is your homework now. I know you're not raising your hand for Twix because you already had your hand up. Folks, go see that commercial, because literally they have a commercial now of a little boy dressed as a girl, and they basically like blow up some kid who makes fun of him, and he feels comfortable in girls' clothes, and that's what's appropriate. There's Mars Candy is the larger company, so you need to start being aware of this stuff. Stop doing business with those people. We will create a new economy, and that's what needs to happen. You obviously have something on your mind. Yeah.
Yeah, so you just said that you flipped Ada County red.
No, I didn't say that. That wasn't me.
Well,
it was a team effort.
Your team effort did.
Yes.
Okay, and so we all know that the legislature's broken.
Yep.
And so in this whole time, the last 6 months, have you been solely focused on your campaign, or have you been pressuring the legislatures that you can?
I've been going across the state and building out a movement to do just that, right?
Okay, so then why wasn't there more movement? I mean,
so you're blaming me. What did you do? What did you do? Yeah, what did you do?
This isn't about me. You're the
Oh, it's not about you now. Okay, interesting. I don't want to hear that. My family put everything on the line, and at the end of the day, I have raised money and put out content to educate people.
You got money from someone else.
What are you asking? I fundraised money. People donated to the campaign for me to build a team so that we can be effective in getting a message out.
These multimillionaires in Florida that live here but don't live here?
There are some of those people, yeah, not all.
So
you can go look at it on the Secretary of State.
Are you beholden to them?
What do you think? I have a vision. I let out with a vision. If somebody wants to meet with me because I'm out there talking about school choice and abolishing the income tax and tackling corruption, and they want to support that vision, isn't that a beautiful thing? This is one of the things the conservatives have to knock it off. We have gotten in this idea that somehow if we operate effectively, that somehow we're sold out. Folks, being effective and crafting an effective message is how you win. This is why Ronald Reagan, who was considered an extremist by many, could win re-election in 49 states. He crafted an effective message. He raised money. This is the funniest thing to me. As I've traveled the state, this is the one rumor that people like to perpetrate, which, by the way, everyone here can go to the Secretary of State's office and see where the money's come from, and you can Google those people and see the likes. And I encourage you to do so. It would be a good exercise for everyone here to learn how to do that, because you'd learn a whole heck of a lot. But this is the part that cracks me up. There are some conservatives that believe that if you're effective, you're somehow bad. Oh no, we want the conservative candidate who can't raise money. We want the conservative candidate who doesn't make any kind of engaging content to get their message out. We just want the conservative candidate that, takes the stage and talks about freedom and liberty, rah, 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 vote for me. Folks, that's not gonna work. How's it been working, right? Yes, I'm running an effective campaign. I'm very proud of this team. I'm very proud of people like Laurel, by the way, who's a nurse practitioner, who's no longer working in her field, who's now working for the campaign for almost nothing, right? And put it all on the line. These are the people that are supporting this effort. So I'm very proud of the money that we raise. You can go see who it is. Doesn't make me beholden to them. Folks, business owners like the idea of abolishing the income tax. It's not a surprise, right? For my business owner friends in the room, you probably love that idea. I think that is a great thing. And I encourage you, go look at the Secretary of State's office. And I also encourage you, don't look at me and blame me for what my family should have done more of, because I don't know a family in my generation who's done more in the state of Idaho, right? We put everything on the line. Am I saying that we're perfect? Am I saying that we've solved it all? No, and I never expected to be, but I wanted to step out and inspire other people to step up in ways in which they never have before, and I have seen it, and we're doing that. I believe that is the mark of success. Doug, who do we have next?
We have, I'm going to take 4 more questions, and Jane, and then you still have a question? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay?
So I have a question for you in regards to the state of Idaho currently. I travel the state also. I am hearing some very concerning things about what's going on in the Magic Valley. We have 400 immigrants.
Yes.
They're working at Chivano, from what they're telling me.
Yes. Yes.
And other people in that area have been trying to make a living. It seems, what can be done? What do you see in your plan that we can do in country to recuperate from all this overrun from the federal government? How can we be protected at this point? What I'm afraid of is that by the time that you get into office, should you be elected, people will have very little to work with.
This is a really good question, and you're wise to follow this. Folks, you have to understand, Idaho takes in more refugees than 8 states combined. We're the 3rd highest in the nation in per capita refugee resettlement. And look, I know I have some of my Christian brothers and sisters in the room who truly, in their heart, they want to help other people. I commend you for it. That's part of the ethic and foundation of this country. But here's the kicker. Folks, the refugee program, the refugee resettlement program is absolutely and utterly reckless. It is beyond reckless. You think that the United States chooses who comes here? Wrong. It's the United Nations. The United Nations High Commission for Refugees picks who comes to the United States of America. And you want to know who the largest voting bloc is in the United Nations? It's the Organization for Islamic Cooperation. Do you know many Christians around the world who truly suffer severe persecution? You guys have seen the videos. You've seen what's going on in the world. They very rarely will go to the United Nations for help. They got to go through other private organizations. The Christians do. The UN is picking who comes here, and then some people will argue with me. Some people say, well, Ed, we vet those people. Wrong again. Folks, this is, I'm not kidding you, this last 90 days alone. Here's just 2 examples. Idaho specific examples. We had a refugee that was here in Idaho in 2010 that was convicted, not just charged, convicted for rape. So we sent him back. Guess what? They just brought him back. 2012, we had a refugee convicted for aggravated robbery. We sent him back. They just brought him back. Folks, there's no vetting. That's a joke. You want to know how election fraud gets carried out and how somebody like Ilhan Omar gets elected? You think it's because people like her? Folks, people like that get elected because these communities are engineered and the services are provided in a methodical manner in which to insulate them, to conduct in the most incredible ballot harvesting schemes you could ever imagine. And another modern day American hero is James O'Keefe, because he has helped shine the light on some of that. He's a modern day American hero. And so these people that are modern day American heroes, you know what else you can do? Here's a question you can ask yourself. How many days am I willing to actually work in a year to support my country? And this is where you're going to see how much you're willing to put it online. How many days are you willing to work for a year for America, for everything that's been given to us? Take your income, your per day income, and be honest with yourself and say, I'm going to go to work for the next week, and I'm going to give it to James O'Keefe and Project Veritas, or I'm going to give it to Turning Point, or what. I'm not even saying don't give it to whoever you believe in, right? Do that. Go to work and know I'm working all day today to help that cause. Then you'll see real change. So as governor, and I put out a video on this, and you should check it out. It's just been spread around Facebook. We just put it out a few days ago. And the governor can do this. I would ban all refugee resettlement in the state of Idaho. Ban it. And I get called everything in the book for it. But folks, I have a radical belief that our government should exist to serve us, to protect us, to benefit us. So folks, there's nothing wrong in believing that. It's okay, right? We have in countless parts of this state law enforcement officers, teachers, and nurses who cannot afford housing in the community in which they work, and yet we will guarantee housing for refugees. That's the agreement we have with the United Nations. They have guaranteed housing. That is not compassion. So for my Christian brothers and sisters who feel very strongly about helping other people out, let's help the cops out. Let's help the nurses out. Thank you. Yeah, great question. Thank you.
So coming at this from somebody who's losing a job tomorrow,
Oh, wow.
I overheard that the lab leadership was already thinking about implementing the mandates before Biden gave his press conference. So, working with the liberal leadership team there, how would you handle that versus how Bradley would it? How would you handle that situation? Say you're backdated into 2021. How would you handle that?
Well, the reality is the INL is federally funded, and this is one of the tough parts about the strings that the government can pull, and so they choose the contractors out at the site and everything else. I wish that there was more power, more ability to address some of that, but at the same time, I go around, I call myself a constitutional conservative, and if I'm going to call myself that, I have to also admit that I believe in federalism. This whole idea, some of you heard it called, layer cake government, which is in essence a way to say that there are certain powers the governor does have, and there are certain powers the governor doesn't have. And in this case, that breaks my heart because there are many great workers like you who are suffering that. And when it comes to the INL, and Doug's got more experience probably than many in this room with the site, and he knows it's the federal money, and they call the shots there at the site. The governor is very, very limited in that regard. Now, what I would say again, what I think the governor ought to do is promote people like you, good workers with incredibly marketable skills. So I'm going to challenge again, the other couple had to leave. They had to go take care of their kids. Here's a gentleman that believes so strongly in something that he's going to put his life on the line. I'm asking the business owners in this room, maybe you're not hiring right now, but you darn well know someone who is. And whatever your skill set is, it's up to you. You guys need to rally around people like that and help them right now. That's your duty. I know I'm asking for a lot, but the governor can call a lot of attention to this and highlight businesses in the state that ought to be supported, businesses that are hiring great people like you, and we got to start shifting our skilled workforce to support those businesses. Honestly, I wish there was more the governor could do at the site. But please follow.
So we had a town hall this afternoon, and so we had a town hall, and the person speaking referred to us as the loud minority.
Oh, fantastic.
Right. Just that's one to throw out there. But they're skewing the numbers, so a lot of people are taking an early retirement. They won't show that number.
Yeah.
And people that got the exemptions, they won't show that number. So,
What's your skill set?
I do so many things that are going to be hurt when I leave.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. No, I love that. This is what's going to happen is these organizations, see at the end of the day, and oftentimes we've gotten lost in this, and I blame actually a lot of corporate America for some of these issues. When did we start listing off all these boxes people had to check to have a job and stop asking, can they do the job and can they do it well? Here's one of those situations where you have somebody who executes well, does a good job, and is now looked at as, a loud minority. You're a squeaky wheel now. And they're not even asking, who can do the best job at the site? How well do you think the site's going to do because of that? Do you think that they're going to have better leadership? You think that they're going to perform their mission and deliver on that more effectively or less effectively? That sickens me because that hurts everyone. It doesn't just hurt you, but it hurts Idaho in countless ways.
So right before that statement, they're bragging about all these new contracts and new research and all this stuff, and it's like this is where these positions are coming from, from all their previous coworkers. It's just like
wow.
They just don't see it.
It's insane. Yeah, Doug, what?
I just wanted to say, and Ed's absolutely right, and we've discussed this before, and if you are being impacted, if you're from the lab and having to quit, and I know that some of you are starting businesses, some of you are reaching out, get us your information, stand up for Idaho, your information, because we're collecting that and we're trying to hook, at least if you're starting your own business, you're a preferred business provider, obviously.
Give him a round of applause. He is doing it. He is doing it. That's what I'm talking about. It's not always up to the politicians. That's leadership.
So, and I encourage you, and I know a lot of you may think it's rhetoric, but I'm really serious about it, and we get a little bit once in a while, but if we can get it together, get your names, what you're doing, and even if you have an idea, I want to start a business. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and a few of us have a little bit of money, not a lot of money, none of us are wealthy, but we may be able to help invest and get some businesses started. That's what we can do for each other here. It's like I've always said, we are a community here, and we have to work that. So please let me know, connect the people with the businesses and vice versa. We can and we will prevail overall.
Doug, and I mean separate from this race, I mean this. Look, if I wasn't running for governor tomorrow, if you set it up and you set up an organization, a legal entity to help oversee what you just said, I will fundraise for that on the side, and I imagine it could be very significant. I'm not kidding you. There are business owners in this state that if they knew there was an organization like what Doug just said, where they could write a check, they would do it.
Well,
Doug, follow up on
I'm an official organization, so they can write checks right now if they want.
Well, I mean, a way to invest in what you're talking about.
Right. The key is we have to get people to let us know, and have you reach to us, because I don't know everybody here, and so you need to reach to us, and we'll help, and vice versa. We have a couple of more questions, and then we'll call it a night, I guess. You still have a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
When you mentioned that you ran the resettling program, but getting that kind of additional stuff, what Ron DeSantis is dealing with right now, buses and planes, coming to other people,
what do you have the right to do as the governor of the state of Idaho when you get busted with planes coming there with people coming across the border illegally?
I love this question. Oh, so the question, so you guys know what's going on in Florida right now. Tucker Carlson just reported, I think last week, that they literally have caught planes in the middle of the night coming in with illegal aliens. This isn't just rhetoric. This is literally happening. And let me tell you, this is where and why I ran for the position I did, because of the governor's immense power in this way. Imagine if the governor picked up the phone and called the director of the Boise Airport, the Idaho Falls Airport, and said, if you allow a single illegal alien to step into Idaho from your airport facility, we are pulling all the state funding. Do you know what would happen? Ooh, doggy. You would suddenly see how effectively they make sure that there aren't these plane loads coming into the state. That would end very quickly. That's the kind of leadership that we need right now. It has to be bold. We have to go for them where it hurts. Absolutely. It's not acceptable that they fly in illegals from other parts of the state. Notice the states are flying them into. You're going to tell me that this isn't strategic? There's a reason for this, right? No, we have to be very effective in how we combat that. That's a major risk that we have today.
You would do that.
Say again?
Why didn't Ron DeSantis do that?
I can't answer for Ron DeSantis.
But it didn't kind of make you wonder what he's doing. Is that easy as a governor?
Send him a suggestion, I guess, right? I don't claim to get all my ideas from somebody else, but to me it seems quite simple. Do you think that these airports, when you look at the funding for the airports, you realize they're heavily subsidized, both state and federal. At the end of the day, that can absolutely be targeted, right? That would bring a very quick end to it, in my opinion. Huh?
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
Okay. One more question. This gentleman's been very patient.
Oh, okay.
CNET's just starting, so the HamNet's just starting for the area, so I am only one, but I am one.
Yeah.
I didn't go to Boise, but I did make phone calls and I sent emails to try and influence what was going on in Boise this last week.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
I did it.
That's great. Yeah.
So I was concerned, how in the world you thought you were going to go up against all the money that the big people have that buy all the boats. Mm-hmm. But then I heard about this truck driver, $150. How often do you check the brake linings of your car?
Yeah, well, this is a question I get asked. So he mentioned, oh, I'm sorry, continue.
Just saying, we get somebody that we really can get behind something. I don't want you to be Clintonized.
Yeah, first, everyone pull their phones out and make sure that they can hear me say, I have no dirt on the Clintons, okay? I have no dirt on the Clintons, and I have no suicidal intentions or inclinations. Look, this is something that candidly, sometimes my family, we think about. I'll tell you, we have 4 security cameras on the house. And one thing I'll say, my wife is a heck of a good shot. I happen to be as well. But I think in the case of Ed Durr out in New Jersey, this is kind of the model, right? This is a regular guy who's like, no, I'm going to take on the pro tem of the Senate. Everything else, be darned, we're going the distance. And he did it. And if you really want to know about my resume, Ed Durr is a truck driver. Just so you know, Doug, I got a Class A CDL too, buddy. So, okay,
hey,
I want that on there.
Put it down.
Put it down.
Put it down. That connects you with the common guy.
Yeah, no.
Hey, now we're getting to my question.
Okay.
We've got some people running for governor of this state. Any one of them would be better than little.
Yeah.
But it's going to come down to a whole bunch of them probably going to be on the ticket at the end, and they are going to split it. What are you willing to do to keep the ticket from splitting and getting little in?
I believe that there will be a clear front runner to emerge around February or March. And I believe there's one thing going for us in this race that we've not had in other races. That universal distaste to what you just said. And I say it on my videos, right? I say when I do a Facebook Live, folks, anybody but Brad Little. Anybody but Brad Little. And I honestly, I believe of the three conservatives, and look, I can duke it out with them on countless things, but I will say this about the three conservatives in the race. I believe everyone's heart is in the right place. I do. That I believe. I think we will get this figured out. I have faith. I'm going to continue to move forward in faith. I believe a clear front runner will emerge, and two candidates would honor that. So just to let you know, I mean, my family's going the distance, but every day that I'm out here on the campaign trail, do you know what our savings account does? Folks, I'm a financial advisor. I know that's not a sustainable course. I'm not going to just go on this journey till the end of time until my family loses everything. We've given a lot. We'll give a whole lot more. But at the end of the day, if there's no chance, then we need to make sure that we have a candidate who can take down Little in a head-to-head contest.
Willing to step down?
If there was no chance, absolutely. Now, what I'm not willing to do, and I'll tell you all very clearly right now, because some people here think it, I am not going to sit back and say, oh, somebody got an endorsement, right? The Lieutenant Governor got President Trump's endorsement, so because of that endorsement, she deserves to just ride his coattails right into office. Not happening. I'm not interested in that. Thank you. Look, I love President Trump. I think he can go off half-cocked sometimes, and that's why we loved him, right? I was a delegate for Trump. I was very offended that the Trump organization, I've been to Mar-a-Lago, they never reached out to me. They never reached out to me. Nobody told me, and I would have been okay even with a courtesy call to let me know, hey, this is a direction we decided to go. I can respect that. But even though I'm pissed at President Trump right now, I will tell you I still really respect the man, and I know many of you do here as well. But folks, you can't just ride in on Donald Trump's coattails into office. That's not acceptable. We need someone who will fight and crawl and scratch for every inch of the field. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm going to keep fighting. And we've built one. Say what you want about me. You might not like me. Maybe you think I'm arrogant or whatever, but we've built one heck of an organization that this state has never seen before. I think that ought to be respected and honored. Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate that.
Okay, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Now, just a second, please, before you leave, have a couple of comments. One is the comment was about a debate, and I would be willing to try and host a debate if we get the candidates. What I would ask, Laurel, I will fall down to you. What are the rules of the debate? What would you think? And I would ask you to, if I were to have a debate of whomever would come, whether it would be the other three and Brad or whatever, what are the rules? And so if you could provide me with a set of rules, I will get them to the others to try and get a debate, okay, for us all to be able to hear. Okay, so if that'll work, because I know that's probably a challenge. Laurel has something she'd like to say.
So I just want to take a real quick moment. My name's Laurel Morgan. I'm actually head's Chief of Staff. And I wanted to just spend a few minutes to kind of challenge each of you guys. It's been a long evening, so I'll keep this relatively short. But I think it's important for you guys to understand when Ed talks about our team and the hard work that we're doing. I'm almost 62 years old, okay? And I'm working those 16 to 18-hour days with him 6 days a week. And you guys want to sit here and ask, why is a 62-year-old working those kind of hours? It's because I have a 3-year-old granddaughter, okay? It's like Doug started to say, I don't want to have grandkids right now. Well, I have one. And I sit here and I look and say, at 3 years old, do I see my granddaughter starting school in a couple of years and not being able to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance in the classroom? If we don't get off our you-know-whats and do something, that's what my granddaughter's looking at. My dad is a decorated Marine Corps colonel. Purple Star, Bronze Star, and a Silver Star. When I tell you that my family has left blood on this battlefield, I physically mean my family has left blood on the battlefield. I'm not going to go to my grave thinking that I didn't put my all in to defend what my father fought for and what our children and our grandchildren deserve to have. That's the heritage we need to pass on to them. So my challenge to you guys tonight is, if you like the message that you heard Ed talk about, You need to get off your you-know-whats, and you need to do something about it. So I challenge you, number one, first of all, stay informed with the campaign. That's very easy. There's little slips of paper that you can fill out real quick. You'll get a weekly newsletter from us. Trust me, it's a very secure email list. We don't share that email list for
And we
obvious
don't
reasons.
do the donate
No,
garbage.
it's not the 88022 number, okay? We do not do that. It's a newsletter. That way you can stay in touch with us. You can find out what's going on the campaign trail, okay? Number two, we need volunteers. We need grassroots people that are willing to get out, get the message, share the message, whether it's sharing it on social media, sharing it via emails, talking to the grocery store clerk, whatever, okay? It's us, the patriots, that are going to take back our country. It's us, the patriots, that need to fight to keep the republic that we have, okay? The other way is to get out your checkbook, your pocketbook, and to put your money where your mouth is, all right? It's expensive to be out here campaigning, and I want you to know that every penny that you guys give goes directly to keeping us on the road, getting this message out. We are an extremely frugal campaign, I will tell you that. I watch the budget very, very closely, as does our campaign manager. And I want you to know that we respect that not everybody can put a donation out, but I know that there's probably some people in this room that can write a check for $1,000 tonight. If that's you, write the check and get behind the campaign, and again, put your money where your mouth is. Now, I'm going to sweeten the pot a little bit for you guys tonight. Anybody that does a $50 donation, I have a free campaign t-shirt that as a thank you gift. $100 or more, I'll give you a hat and a t-shirt, because I don't want you to go away, because I want you out that door supporting the campaign, and if you have a little swag to wear, it's kind of fun to do that. It sparks a lot of conversations when you have a hat on. I know there's a couple of people in the room that are wearing theirs tonight because they've been before and they've donated. But the call to action, you guys, is now passed to you, because I'm out here already doing it. And I can't work any harder. I can't work any more hours, okay? But I see a whole room of patriots right here that have the ability to get on board. And that's the challenge to you, and that's the call to action to you guys tonight. Don't leave this room without ponying up, okay? All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everybody. One last thing. Come next week. It's going to be a party, you know. I'm not going to have any dance or band or anything, but come next week. It'll be a good time. Just to get around, you know each other and say thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.